Guys, welcome back to the Play Garage. Hopefully one of the last videos I'll film here because I signed a lease on a space in Bowen Hills in Brisbane. So all being, all going to plan, I should be running proper one-to-one sessions and doing proper videos from that location from sort of 13th of October onwards. Anyway, so to make this video, it's just an idea as to how you approach back pain and why what people might think is the obvious approach probably isn't going to work very well. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you've got back pain, obviously it's it's common sense, right, to think that your back is weak and it's aggravated. So therefore, if you get it stronger, it's going to be more resilient, more robust, and less prone to get injured. Which long term, that's true, but short term for most people, that's not going to work very well. And we need to sort of think about why that is, and then how that's going to affect your approach, with rehabbing a back injury. So obviously, when people think about, doing back exercises, they might think of things like, back extensions, good mornings, deadlift variations, maybe even going straight into things like, kettlebell swings and stuff, which are all great exercises, and they will indeed, build a stronger back, provided it's at the right time for the right person, and, within the realms of the context of their injury. So those exercises are, they are designed to build a stronger lower back. But the trouble is that if you've got back pain at the moment, chances are that the reason the back's annoyed is because it's already doing too much work all of the time. Especially if you've got things like, disc bulges and herniations, that is a clear-cut sign that you're doing too much work with that lower back area. And that's where there's that kind of excessive wear and tear, on those discs and the vertebra. So, what we need to do is, rather than, yes, eventually you are going to have to strengthen the back, but what we need to think about is, if you can feel your back doing the work all the time, what are the things you're not feeling that are helping? So normally for most people, without having to get too complicated, they've probably obviously got a core issue, particularly sort of lower abdominals are probably very sort of sleepy if nothing else, but there'll be other stuff as well probably, and also sort of glutes and dysfunction in the hips. So if we go straight to doing like a lower back exercise with all this sort of dysfunction, these bits missing, it's just going to exacerbate the problem, because you're making a tired back just do more work. You're not actually working on the things that should be helping your back to help take some of the workload off. So what would be a better approach? So a better approach, obviously, number one, I've said this in all the videos, is obviously you need to understand the injuries, mechanics of your injury, and remove those things, let everything sort of subside. Once you've done that, then we need to start looking at what are the things that you're missing. Is it certain elements of your core, core control and stability that you're missing? How well do your hips function? For example, for your glutes, can you actually use your glutes to drive your hips into extension, or do you cheat by using maybe your quads or your hamstrings or your lower back when you try and do something like a glute bridge? If we get those missing, or those weak links up to scratch, and then we can start looking at putting everything together, we can then start looking at exercises such as, things like good mornings, deadlifts, squats, all those big, awesome exercises. But we've got to make sure that everything else is doing its fair share of the work. And again, I like to use the analogy of, like an orchestra or a band. We've got to make sure all those different elements of the band are all playing together, so that we can do those movements safely, as opposed to if they're not doing the right thing, then basically the back's just going to take up all the slack and try and do all the work on its own, which again is just going to make it more aggravated. So just think to yourself, rather than going straight to, let's go straight into back pain training, have a bit more of a, a think about what are the things that you might be missing that we need to work on first before we go into those big, more complicated movements, so that we can use those other components with the back at the same time. And that's long term how you're going to build a stronger, more robust back. So just think, if your back's sore, it's probably already doing too much work. What are the things you don't feel that aren't doing the work, and look to getting those up to scratch first.